All right. Health Within Family and Fearless Immunity Masterclass attendees. I know I'm running a few minutes early. Just wanted to get on here and give you guys a chance to log on and make a couple comments. And before we go ahead and get the show started. So I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes here. Hey, Monique, glad you're tuning in. You guys get the casual Dr. Nick tonight. So you're welcome. A couple of things before we get started. Some things that I've been doing lately is doing more elderberry syrup. Just helps with viral and bacterial infections. It's antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. And so I have some in a little glass here. And so you can find this in the office. We talked a little bit about this at the last workshop, elderberry syrup and how it's so important for the immune system. Great for all ages, but it's one of those things that we love taking in the clinic, and a lot of our patients do. The other thing that I do on a daily basis is colloidal silver. This is the brand that we carry in the office, Argentine 23. There's a couple other good brands out there, but this is a spray. There's actually no taste to this. And on this, the servings is 30 sprays. And so I do that at least once a day. So you can also get them in a dropper form. And so those are just a couple of things that help with, once again, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. And I got my reverse osmosis water right here out of a glass, and it's room temperature. And so I don't know if we've hit on that in the past couple of workshops, but making sure that when you do drink water that you're drinking, majority of the time is drinking on at room temperature. Reason why it's easier on your digestive system to process and digest, and it just calms down your gut versus drinking ice water all the time. Is going to put the gut into a somewhat of a fight or flight state, and it makes things harder to digest and process. And so glad everybody's in. I know we have a couple more people that are going to be coming on in the next couple of minutes, but let's go and get started. We are going to forego using the PowerPoint, and the reason is because I just reviewed the PowerPoint over and over again. I just didn't think the slides added a lot of value. It was the information that goes with the slides that I'm just going to be speaking to you. So hopefully you can follow along maybe a little bit easier. I just didn't want to be distracting to you. And so we're going to go over a lot of things tonight when it comes to the immune system, but specifically it's all about cancer awareness. Many people out there have been first-handedly affected by cancer. Maybe yourself, maybe someone in your home, maybe a mom or your dad or your pastor or someone at work or your sibling, whatever it is. Many of us affected by cancer. And if I were to ask you to raise one hand, if you know someone's been affected by cancer, then keep it up, and then raise the other hand if you know someone else. Usually both hands are going up when we do this at this event in live, in person. And so, I want to be sensitive to this. I know there's a lot of people out there who have passed away from cancer. I know there's a lot of people who've battled cancer and they've fought it, and using conventional medicine have gotten over it. Praise God. That's a miraculous feat. And so no matter where you are, our biggest thing we got to understand is we have to know the knowledge behind what is cancer, how do we prevent it and fight it and stop building it. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to cancer, there's three things you got to do. One is you got to figure out what's causing it and stop causing it. Okay. Two is you got to kill it. And three is you have to rebuild your immune system. And so our medical system is really focused on number two, which is kill, kill, kill. And we'll go over some of the options that they use and some of the treatments that they use and really discuss, is it working? Is it not working? And so, I think when we go through these workshops online or in person, I want to make sure that we understand that information plus application equals transformation, right? So it's information plus application, A equals T, transformation, right? So I plus A equals T. That's a writer downer, because we can't just have one and not the other. Some of us like to take action without knowing all the information. And some of us like to gather all the data and not take action at all. And I would prefer that we are a shoot then aim type of person, because we know taking action is the most important thing when it comes to transformation in your health and really any aspect of your life. And so when we're talking about cancer, we know right now in America, not the world, but in America, 1 in 2 men will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in their life. 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in their life. And I share these numbers so that we're not that statistic, so that we are setting ourselves aside and apart, and recognizing that to not become a statistic, we have to do something drastically different. We have to be the purple unicorn in the room. We got to be the person that's thinking differently than everybody else, acting differently than everybody else. And what we realize is that if we're living a healthy lifestyle 80 to 85% of the time in our life, we're going to be the healthiest person on the planet. It's when we go with what everyone else is doing. And that's what we don't want. And I know that's why you're here tonight at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday, when we're all beat up from the day with the emotional ups and downs, right? And so let's just get right into it, guys. I mean, what is cancer, and what is our visceral response when we hear the word cancer? How does it make us feel? Does that make us nervous? Does that make us thankful that you don't have it? Does it make you scared? Does it automatically pop somebody up into your brain like, oh, my grandpa died from cancer? Does it make your stomach turn a little bit, right? What is that response? And the second question I have for you, and you don't have to answer this, but is why? Why do you have the response? And I share with you guys at the in-person workshop that my grandfather suffered with cancer, diabetes, heart disease, but cancer is the thing that took him out for 10 years, multiple surgeries, multiple rounds of chemo, multiple rounds of radiation. He's a sick man. And obviously I didn't want him to suffer. At the time, you don't know any different. I was a senior in high school. But looking back, I think I shared this the other day, is when I think about cancer, it used to make my stomach hurt, because I saw what he had to go through. And more importantly, I saw how it affected my dad, my family, myself. And I realized that he didn't fulfill his legacy that he wanted to fulfill the last 10 years of his life, because he was sick, and he was sick and tired. Right. And so that makes my stomach turn. But now, being in practice for 11 years, we've lost a handful of people to cancer, people who've gone through the medical route, people who've done a little bit of both, more holistic and medical, and some people who did nothing. And they've passed away from cancer. And those are the people that keep me up at night sometimes, right? Those are people that it just got to a little bit too late, right? Obviously, God has a will for our lives, so I don't carry that guilt and that regret. But those are the people that pop up in my mind now, where now this information needs to reach the masses of people. And as I said the last workshop, this is a master class. So it's not just for you and the people you love. It's for the people you love, right? It's the first, second, third circle of influences that you have that you don't even know you have. And you never know what you say or do today to somebody's life or into somebody's life that's going to impact the lives of thousands or even millions tomorrow, right? And so this is a huge workshop, guys. The reality is, when it comes to cancer, it's a term for diseases in which abnormal cells divide without control, and they can invade nearby tissues. Cancer cells can also spread to other parts of the body through the blood and lymph systems. So in short, this is what it is. There's something called apoptosis that occurs in our body. And so that is when there's a cellular lifespan for each individual cell, for each different tissue in your body. Okay. So there's a birth date and there's an end date. And it's automatically predestined by your body. And what happens is that if your body is a sick environment, or if your external environment is damaging your internal environment, okay, what happens is that instead of your cells dying prematurely, they say, well, wait, we got to stay alive. We have to stay alive. And so they start to mutate into what is called cancer cells. And when they mutate into cancer cells, the structure of the cell and what it needs to live actually changes. And we'll go over that here in a little bit. It changes. And so really what cancer is touted at now with some of the best researchers out there is that cancer is actually a survival mechanism. It's keeping your body alive. So instead of us just dying prematurely because we have less than 76 or 77 trillion cells in our body, the body says we're going to mutate, or cells are saying we're going to mutate to keep you alive. And what's interesting is that in our bodies, even newborn babies, we have anywhere from 10 to 20,000 cancer cells in our body at any given time. And what's responsible for keeping those cancer cells down so they don't continue to mutate and proliferate and grow and grow and grow is our immune system. So cancer is an immune system issue. And so our body is made up of trillions of cells which grow and divide into different functions. Which cells become damaged or old, they're replaced by new cells. The ones that don't get replaced are cancer cells. And that's what we got to wrap our head around. Okay? So we got to wrap our head around. And so when cancer grows out of control, it forms into a tumor over time. Now that could take anywhere from 7, 8, 10, 15 years to show up on a scan, whether it's a mammogram, colonoscopy, no matter what it is. On average, it takes anywhere from 8 to 15 years for a medical test to find cancer. By the time you have it, you have it. Sometimes it's too late, unfortunately, right? And so if you look and see what's happening, I mean, we have more money dumped into the medical research for cancer than ever before in history. I mean, if you look at Susan G. Komen, there's pink everything now, which doesn't even make sense. We'll highlight that in a second. But you see all this money going into cancer research, cancer drugs, cancer research, cancer drugs. They're focused on the second step. Remember, the first step is stop creating it. Second step is kill it. Third step is rebuild your immune system, right? So they're focused on number 2. And that's where all the money is going into. And guess what? Unfortunately, it's not working. It's not working. I mean, I'm just looking at some of these numbers. I was looking at them today. In 2019, 600,000 people in America died from cancer. Well, in 2020, it's expected that even with COVID, in 2020, 800,000 people are expected to die from cancer. That means a 200K increase in 1 year. What's happening? We don't need more research in drugs. We don't. We got to figure out something else. Because if you look at Susan G. Komen, just the money that's getting dumped into that, I'll just read some of the stats. This is from 2015. 20% of their money goes into research. 5% goes into treatment. So 25% would say goes to actually patient benefit, I would say, or patient improvement with cancer. But what's crazy, this is insane, is that the CEO gets paid $684,000 per year for Susan G. Komen. It is a marketing campaign. And guess what? They've mastered it. They've mastered it. I mean, they got, if you just Google Susan G. Komen pink products, if you just Google that, you'll see some ridiculous things on there. You'll see some ridiculous things. I'm just looking at it right now. If you look at this, there's a Germ-X, a pink Germ-X. We talked about that last time, right? Hand sanitizer. It's carcinogenic. Research even shows it. But Susan G. Komen slaps the pink label on there and people are going to buy that, right? Because they brainwashed us. They brainwashed us into that. I mean, for goodness sakes, I mean, I'm looking at here, they got a KFC bucket that's pink because of Susan G. Komen. You got perfume that's carcinogenic and an endocrine disruptor. You got kids' makeup. I mean, it's crazy, guys. And so we just got to step back and say, listen, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And are we willing to ask more questions? I think that's what we got to get down to is what is cancer, which we just determined. How do we prevent it? How do we reverse it? Because at the end of the day, the cause is the cure. The cure is the cause, right? And so we got to step back and say, what are we currently doing? Is it working? Is it not working? Because at the end of the day, being sick is costing our country trillions of dollars just in cancer. Just in cancer, in 2018, cancer cost America $1.16 trillion. And wait for it, this is insane. The death rate did not improve. And actually, it got, unfortunately, worse. So we got to change our approach on this. Because I'm not saying oncologists are bad. I'm not saying, all forms of chemo are bad. I'm not saying all surgeries are bad. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, until we figure out 1, 2, and 3, all the steps to prevent, fight, and reverse cancer and heal from cancer, we're going to be completely lost. We're going to be like everybody else. And so we gotta understand what is the difference between a healthy cell and a cancer cell. What's the difference? What's the difference? Well, healthy cell relies on oxygen for fuel. It also is controlled by our nervous system, meaning it's direct controlled by our brain. It's a computerized model. And then 3 is in an alkaline or neutral environment, the pH in our body. It's alkaline/neutral. Now, cancer cells don't feed off of oxygen. They don't need oxygen to survive. Wait for it. They actually need sugar to survive. Cancer cells have 8 times the affinity for sugar than they do for oxygen. Okay, we'll get to that in a second on how logistically and medically they understand this, but they don't tell people to stop eating sugar, which blows my mind. And then also too, when we think about cancer cells, is that it's in an acidic environment, right? So standard American lifestyle, standard American diet is acidity. I mean, that's just is what it is, right? And so we got to combat that on a daily basis. And then it's out of control of the central nervous system, meaning our brain loses control of the function of the cell and or the tumor. So that's what we have to recognize, that, listen, we got to understand what's going on and how we can feed the healthy cells and kill the cancer cells. Because really that's what we're doing on a daily basis. We don't even know it, right? We don't even know it. And so I want you to also remember this: cancer is a systemic disease. Cancer doesn't make you sick. You've been sick for years, and that's when cancer developed. Say it again. Cancer doesn't make you sick. It's you've been sick for years, and the cancer's developed. And when it develops, the options that we have in our country is you can either cut it out, surgery, you can poison it out, chemo, or you can burn it out, radiation. So cut, poison, or burn. Now, a lot of these traditional types of treatments for cancer are still mainstream from 30 years ago. Not a lot has changed, unless you go to specific states that do more isotopic chemotherapy, which means they literally attach a radioactive isotope, i.e. sugar, to the chemo, and the chemo and isotope go to the cancer cells and they kill the cancer cells instead of just going systemically treating the body with chemo and radiation, chemotherapy medication. So we got to recognize that there's either cut, poison, or burn. That's really it, unless you go to a fancy doctor. It's hard to find that now, right? And so we got to recognize that what's currently what's currently happening is not working, right? And the first thing that we do in our country is that when we first get a diagnosis, we blame it on our genetics. This is like for everything else. If you're overweight, blame it on your genes. If you get heart disease, blame it on your parents, right? But you don't say like, oh well, you don't say to a 10-year-old, hey, when you're 50, you're gonna get cancer like me. No one would say that because they know it's not real. It's not true. Do some research on Bruce Lipton about epigenetics. Epigenetics says that you can literally change which part of your DNA turns on that's going to benefit your life, and you can turn off the DNA that's going to harm your life. So literally you can change your DNA and RNA outcomes with healthy lifestyle, and this can be changed by up to 4 generations by what you do today. So look up Bruce Lipton with epigenetics. It's incredible stuff, right? And so the DNA of the genes, they don't determine your destiny. I know you may use it as an excuse, or you've been told that and lied to. Well, you've been lied to. It's just not true. Your DNA does not determine your destiny. As I said, the cause is the cure. It's all about preventing cancer. That's what it's all about. And this is the thing, is that, as I said before in the past, that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, that your body is designed to heal. It never harms you. It desires to heal. It wants to heal. It's absolutely true. That's why cancer, as I said, is a survival mechanism. The body is always looking to adapt. It will never harm itself or injure itself. And so this is the question we have to ask. When people pass away from cancer, what are they really passing away from? Is the cancer spreading systemically throughout the body? That can be the case. Is it a tumor so big that it's stopping the function of specific organs? Can that be the case? Yes. Do we prematurely treat it with chemo radiation? and or surgery. And with surgery, something called angiogenesis occurs. Look that word up, angiogenesis, which shows that if you cut specific blood vessels during a surgery, they rapidly proliferate or duplicate, which leads a highway to the rest of your body for cancer cells to spread. And that's what we call malignancy, high chance of malignancy, angiogenesis. Chemoradiation, yeah, it may kill the cancer, but is it killing the cancer cells that are creating the cells that completely duplicate and replicate? Or is it just burning an area? Now it's going to impact the function of that organ in that area for the rest of my life. Or maybe the chemo and radiation has damaged your gut so much that now you can't even consume nutrients and minerals, and therefore you die from something called starvation, right? Or toxicity from the chemicals, right? So it's not just, oh, they died from cancer. Well, what was the year leading up to that? What was their treatment like? What happened? And I think we got to ask more questions, of course, with emotional intelligence, to say, how did that happen? Like, how did that happen? And I think it's okay to ask those questions to yourself and just, get more research on that. But we got to recognize that our exposure to weakened immune system, things that we do during our life that weaken our immune system day in, day out, affect us. Everything we do today is going to impact us for the rest of our life. I know that sounds heavy. It kind of is, right? But we got to step back and say, okay, events in our life plus our response equals our outcome. Events plus response equals outcome. E plus R equals O. We can't always control our outcome. We can't control the events that happen to us or around us. We can't. The only thing we can control is the response, or the R factor, right? So all the things that happen to us in the first 30 years of life, okay? Let's just say the first 18 years of life, okay? Because we didn't really have a choice. We got to deal with that. But it's how we respond from when we know the truth about health and healing, and we know that cancer isn't our destiny, and we know maybe you've gotten over it. It doesn't have to happen again. Do you guys know the survival rate? When they say the survival rate of cancer, as long as you make it 5 years, they never recheck and see if you're alive after 5 years from cancer. So if you make it 5 years on a cancer survival rate, then you're good. You just continue to be on, they're still surviving. It's just not accurate, right? And so, listen, a lot of times cancer duplicates. Why? Because the person never changed their lifestyle. So they actually never got their body healthy and well because they never were told to. The people that have had cancer, who have fought it off, and they don't ever get it again, had to drastically change their life. And they'll tell you, I had to drastically change my life. I know exactly what contributed to the problem, and I had to start to change it. If not, I would have had another diagnosis down the road. And that is just a fact. So what is our R factor? What is our response to what the first X amount of years of our life were like? But guess what? We can turn it around, thankfully. And what I found is the fear factor is real. When we hear the big C word, the fear factor is real. And I get it. But we got to strengthen our mind. Our mind will quit way before our body will ever quit. Right? So our mind has to be strong when we hear things like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, obesity, high blood pressure, whatever that diagnosis may be, or whatever your friend is going through or your spouse is going through. With the strength in this, rely on him and understand that we've been equipped with all the information, knowledge, and tools that you need inside of your body. And with these workshops that we're doing with you, to let fear fade away and focus on what is your response going to be. Because the response is going to yield the outcome that you desire, if it's a favorable response, right? And so one of the things that we know right now, when we look at the 5 essentials in cancer, the biggest thing that I've seen that's affecting people in cancer is stress. Some level of stress happened in people's lives or a person's life, and whether it was a loss of a loved one, loss of a marriage, you lost your child, you lost a job, it was a move, whatever the case may be. There's some type of life event, a life stress that occurs anywhere from 5, 10, 15 years before a diagnosis hits. I've had a lot of cancer consultations with patients who come into the office, and I always ask, hey, did anything happen about 5 to 15 years ago to you or around you that would have caused an increased amount of stress in your body? Was there anything? And usually there is, right? So we gotta keep our stress in check, because stress is a toxin to our body, and also stress increases our cortisol in our body, and it causes a cortisol dump. When there's a cortisol dump into our body, that means our body is in fight or flight mode chronically. And when our body's in fight or flight mode, then we don't have the ability for our immune system to do what it's supposed to do and actually roam for, find, and kill cancer cells. So when people have underlying conditions from past viruses that are laying dormant, when people have stressful jobs, when people have physically demanding jobs, thoughts, traumas, and toxins, when there's chronic issues like that, it puts I call it a kink in your armor, or a ding in your armor, which means now your body's trying to fight that off and deal with that. And by the way, without you even knowing it, it's trying to fight off these cancer cells, right? So it's systemically involved, right? It's not just one thing. It's systemically involved, right? And so think about this. It's like your foot being on the gas, okay? It's like your foot being on the gas pedal, and you don't have time to get gas because you're just going 100 miles an hour. So you're going to run out on the highway in the middle of nowhere. That's most Americans, right? So we got to take our foot off the gas. We do. And let our body heal, let our stress heal, right? And so when we think about this, when we think about sugar and we think about emotional stress, we think about all these things that are happening. One of the things that's happening in our culture is as a test is something called PET scans. PET scans. Now, the medical system knows this, okay? PET scans is a scan that is done in our body that is the patient is told that if they have cancer, they're going to have them fast for a certain amount of time. They're going to inject radioactive isotopes into their body, and then they're going to be imaged. And what happens is the cancer sites are going to start glowing, because the isotopes that are being injected into the body, the glucose, is going to go to the cancer sites. And so we know that to be true, that sugar is going to go to the cancer sites. We just know it to be true. And if we know it for a PET scan, then why aren't patients being told to stop eating sugar? It's one of the number one things you can do. Stop eating sugar, right? But no, they're being told, hey, drink this Ensure, Ensure. Look up the ingredients to Ensure and think if someone who's healthy should consume that. Not question yourself, should someone who's sick and chronically ill consume Ensure? It is absolutely junk. And that's what some of the best oncologists in the world are telling their patients to consume when they have cancer. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And my concern is this. You call it white coat syndrome, where we just listen to whatever the doctor says because they're from WashU or they're from Barnes Hospital. And it's like, do you know how many hours the medical doctors had in nutrition? Harvard Medical School, they have 1 hour of nutrition, and it's called rural nutrition in Hispanic culture. Not even in America. It's absolutely absurd, right? So like they're saying, like, if you want nutrition, get out of the country, right? And so we got to step back and say, what is happening? What is happening with that? So I think when we understand what cancer is, it should calm us down and realize what's currently happening is so far off than where we should be, and it's time to change that. Another thing that we're worried about when it comes to cancer and what people are misinformed about with nutrition is gluconeogenesis. When there's too much protein in the diet, what they've shown is that too much protein in the diet can actually cause sugar to go through the bloodstream, therefore feeding more cancer. And so when I was in college, that you would consume 40 grams of protein every meal. It was crazy, right? And so what they found is that it's actually not good. So it increases blood sugar, it weakens the immune system, and it causes more risk for cancer. So now they're recommending anywhere from 10 and 20 grams of protein per meal, depending if you're a woman or a man, and depending if you're training or not training. And so let's go on a cellular level too. This is huge. So I really we're going to go with some nutrition. but I also want to make sure you understand why nutrition is so important, not just the how, but the why. And so on a cellular level, imagine this. There's a phospholipid bilayer. So imagine a circle. Okay, imagine a circle, and around it is a fatty lipid bilayer. Okay, and what should happen is this: is that healthy cells should get the toxins out of the cell and the good nutrients in the cell. It should be able to communicate two ways through the cell wall. Okay, that cell wall is made up of healthy fats. Okay, lipids, fats. If the cell is toxic, and I'll explain how it becomes toxic. What happens, imagine there's a saran wrap that goes around this ball, right? All the bad toxins stay in the cell and nothing good can get in, okay? So nothing good can get in the cell, the toxins can't get out of the cell, so it becomes a toxic cell. And so what happens in our culture, specifically with nutrition, is that the average American, from an omega-6 to omega-3 perspective, is anywhere from 20-to-1 ratio, when we should be really a 2-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. So we have too many damaged fats in our body, damaged oils, damaged fats. And so what you have to do tonight is change the oils that you have at your home. So throw away the canola oil, throw away the Crisco, throw away the vegetable oil, right? Throw away all these oils. The only oils that I recommend you having is coconut oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, and avocado oil. Those are the 4 things you want to be consuming, okay? Olive oil is going to be at low to no heat. Coconut oil is going to be more of a medium to high heat. Same thing with avocado oil and grapeseed oil, okay? So you got to change your oils. You also got to change your meat. This is why. If you're having damaged fats coming from damaged animal protein, that is going to cause your cells to become toxic. Now, we've all heard in the 90s, they said that red meat is that's what we've heard. We've heard that red meat's bad for you. And the reality is that's a lie. This is a study called the China study. Do the research on this. The China study says that, well, all red meat's bad, but they don't tell you where that research came from. The research actually came from, they looked at men consuming McDonald's fast food, grain-fed cow's meat, crap, and no wonder it's going to cause high cholesterol, high blood pressure, cancer. So the truth is that if you're consuming healthy animal proteins, organic, grass-fed, antibiotic-free, as close to natural as possible, the chances of your cells being damaged are going to be not even an issue. It's going to be a non-issue, right? So you got to change your oils. You got to change your meats. You got to make sure you're also not consuming bottom feeders, right? So when I was in college, you eat all this tuna because it's cheap, right? Or eat tilapia because it's just cheap and you get a whole bag of it from Sam's for super cheap. Or you can get a whole bag of the frozen chicken breasts that are bigger than your head for super cheap, right? And you got to, I was doing that. So I accumulated heavy metals over time because I was consuming tuna, I was consuming tilapia, all these bottom feeders are smaller, and these smaller fish that feed off of toxins, right? The crustaceans and the shrimps and the lobsters. I know some of them taste great. Oysters, things like that. Those are going to be highly toxic to our cells if we're consuming them on a regular basis, right? And then lastly, the other damaged fat that many of us consume is dairy. Certain dairy products are going to be damaged fat and they're going to affect our cellular wall. And so what we got to recognize is that nutrition isn't just about having a six-pack and having more energy. I mean, food is thy medicine, right? And food thy medicine in a preventative perspective, right? That if we're consuming certain foods that damage our cellular wall, that's going to lead to more cancer cells. It just is. And then you throw sugar and processed food on top of it. I mean, guys, it's time that we change. Like I said, if you're living the 5 essentials that we teach in our clinic, 80 to 85% of the time, you're going to be the healthiest person on the planet. It's just a fact. I'm not saying perfection's a reality. It's just that we got to keep this in the front of our mind. Listen, you're responsible for the choices and the results that you have, right? So either you're going to choose health or you're going to choose more sickness. And you know what? If you want a donut, just know that feeds your body more sugar. And you may not feel good the next day, right? If you have a tummy, I say it to the kids all the time, like, hey, if you want to have that candy before I throw it away, right? it's going to hurt you. So it's going to give you a stomach ache. It may affect your skin. It may affect your energy levels tomorrow. Or you can actually eat this, which is going to be healthier for you. Which one sounds better? And kids are smart. Like, they're going to choose the thing that sounds better for them, right? And I think we got to approach life Socratically, even with the decisions that we make, right? And then lastly, when it comes to nutrition, is the glyphosate that's on all the foods. I mean, they did research on Cheerios, and they found that it's twice the amount of safe doses of glyphosate is being consumed through Cheerios. Too much glyphosate, we know, is in everything. But think about Cheerios, right? It's how we start our day, right? This causes toxicity to our cells, right? To our cells, not just a weight loss issue, not just a gut issue, but actually stress to our cells, right? Stress to our cells. And guys, listen, when it comes to what's happening in our culture, I think I want to recognize, I'm yelling at you right now, but the reason why I'm passionate about this is because there's something that's now a diagnosis medically. It's called cancer phobia, where literally people are scared of the word cancer. It's called cancer. It's literally a diagnosis, which is insane, right? And so we got to start to add in the good fats and get rid of the bad fats. I don't care if your grandmother's favorite recipe, favorite cake recipe, favorite pie recipe involved Crisco. Crisco, the number one ingredient in Crisco, is something called TBHQ. It is a paint thinner. Next time you open up Crisco, hopefully never again. Next time you open up Crisco, it smells like paint. Okay, it smells like paint. So you got to change the oils. You got to change the meats that you're consuming, and you got to get rid of the things that are going to cause toxins in the body, right? Through our food is the glyphosate. It's the colors and the dyes. I mean, we shouldn't be consuming colors and dyes. Those are considered neurotoxic. And so colors and dyes weaken our immune system and they damage our body. Once again, your homework assignment, one of the homework assignments is change your oils, change your meats, change your fats, look up the ingredients to ensure. You can Google the Susan G. Komen pink products. You'll just be blown away by that stuff. I mean, this is stuff that we got to recognize is in our own hands to do some more research on this. Okay. Another thing too, I want you to write this down, or at least remember this is called toxic bioaccumulation. I know it's a happy phrase to think about, right? But toxic bioaccumulation. Now, this really answers a lot of questions that I have for myself. When I first got into practice, I started seeing this huge influx of babies who were being diagnosed with brain cancer. And I was like, how does that happen? Like, how are babies being diagnosed with cancer, brain cancer? They haven't had any stress in their life, right? And then the more research I've done is it's all about toxic bioaccumulation from the mom's life through the womb to the baby, right? But for us, we got to think about everything from the womb to today, everything that we've done or not done to our body. And that's what we called toxic bioaccumulation. So instead of waving the white flag and join the crew, what every other American is, and blame it on their age or their genes, it's time to put a line in the sand and say, listen, have I believed lies my entire life when it comes to cancer and the immune system? Have I deferred responsibility? And what can I do today to take responsibility, even more responsibility? See, the people that I'm speaking to right now, you guys, you're the top 1, 2, 3, 5% in our culture who's doing something for their health to benefit your life for the rest of your life and influence people around you. You're willing to say, I know I got a lot of things right, but how do I take that next layer off? How do I figure out that next thing, right? How do I figure out that next thing? And so I want to encourage you, keep it up. You're doing awesome. You know, guys, as we look into chiropractic and how that impacts cancer specifically, is because chiropractic impacts the immune system. There's something called interleukin 2. Interleukin 2. And it is a tumor necrosis factor, interleukin 2. Now, what's amazing is this interleukin 2, ILK-2, can be produced in the lab for $2,000 a vial, or wait for it, it's actually produced by your central nervous system, your spinal cord, and your nerve roots that come out of your mid-back, your thoracic spine, right between your neck and your lower back. And so what research shows is that when patients are getting adjusted, what happens is that interleukin-2 increases by 48% in the body. And guess what? You're not paying $2,000 a vial. And it's coming from inside your body. So guess what? When people come into the office with immune system issues, where am I focused on? Everything, of course, but the mid-back, interleukin-2. Cancer, interleukin-2, right? That's what our focus is. And so what happens is this: when you're getting adjusted in the clinic, it's not just that area feels better. No, there's actually an opioid receptors that affect the brain. Literally, it changes your brain chemistry. It changes your mindset from being in a fight or flight state to a rest or relaxed state. It's literally changing your body from being sympathetically driven, which is overdrive, the foot's on the gas, into parasympathetic, which take the foot off the gas and put the foot on the brake and give our body a chance to heal, sleep, digest food, and fight off cancer. So a chiropractic adjustment isn't just, hey, you feel better, high five, hug it out, you're doing awesome, smile on the way out. That happens too. But no, literally interleukin-2 increases in the body. Your white blood cell count goes up. Your cortisol levels, the cortisol dump, decreases. And the body actually has the ability and chance to heal itself from the inside out. And so what's next? What can we do after chiropractic? Well, we talked about some nutrition. We can move. There's something called EPOC, okay? Excess post-oxygen consumption. Now, we said good cells, healthy cells need oxygen for fuel. Sick cells need sugar for fuel, right? So EPOC is all about exercise. So getting up and moving isn't just so you have strong legs or you have abs. No. It's about another thing you can do to fight off cancer, to boost your immune system, and for the oxygen to increase in the body, right? And so think about this. In our body, when we're taught that we have cancer, we can either do cut, poison, or burn, right? But when we think about what we do with a plant that's dying, think about this as a plant analogy, okay? If a plant is dying, we would never say, well, let me just cut off that leaf. Let me just cut them off. Or let me just cut it down if it's dying. Or you know what? Let's pour glyphosate or sugar or Ensure into the soil. That's probably what's missing. We would never put chemo into the soil. We would never just take away half the soil, cut off half the roots. We would never burn down half the tree or half the plant. We would never do that. What would we do? We would make sure the soil is healthy, fertilize it with nutrients and minerals, water the plant, take it to an area where there's sunlight, make sure it's able to breathe and get air. And we would expect the plant to actually heal itself. And we have more faith in a plant than we do in our own body to heal itself. It's unbelievable. We have more faith in a plant than we do in the human body. It's crazy to me. So remember that plant analogy. That is going to be huge. So listen, guys, get adjusted. Adjustments help boost your immune system every single time you are in the clinic. Get your spine adjusted. Get your kids, your spines adjusted. Get your spouse's spines adjusted. It's going to do more things in their body than we can even explain, right? At the end of the day, we're looking for a homeostasis. We're looking for balance, right? We're looking for a balance in the body, and we're looking for things to happen in our body that are going to benefit our health, right? And if we're focusing on the balance and homeostasis, then we're going to make proper decisions with our health. We're going to make proper decisions with our health. But what's happening in our culture is that we're looking at cancer or precancerous cells as we're going to die immediately. Guys, when you're lifting a lot of weights or we're working in the yard, you develop these things in your hands called calluses. That is a sign of cellular cells that are morphing or changing, right, or altering. And the body says, let's put more cells on. Why? Because the body's trying to what? Strengthen that tissue, right? And so what happens is that if you have calluses, we think, well, that's a good thing. They don't always feel good, but that's a good thing. And so what happens is this. Think about that in polyps in the colon. Let's say there's stress or inflammation in the colon, right? If there's polyps there, we say, well, let's just cut them out. Well, wait. We never asked, I wonder why the polyps are there in the colon. We just say, well, it's really precancerous. Let's cut them out. It doesn't make sense, guys. It doesn't make sense. And so we got to step back and say, listen, cancer is all about building a healthy environment, right? For our immune system to strengthen itself and to fight off these cancer cells without us having to will it. But we got to get out of this fear state, guys. We have to get out of this fear state. There's some research that was being done that the team and I were talking about today about how there's these zebras and lions, and how, like, if zebras are scared, they're going to run until the threat is out of the way. The lion's gone. And when they're resting or they don't see the lion, they're going to lay down in a safe spot and allow their body to get into a parasympathetic state or a relaxed, calm state, and out of the sympathetic driven dominant state. And it went on and on to say this: we're the only mammals that can actually worry themselves sick. And I thought about that. I was like, man, even when there is no threat, we still are thinking about the threat. We're the only mammal that worries about something that they can't see, or they don't know is there. And I think that tells a lot about human nature, but I also think it tells a lot about our responsibility. And say, how can we control our response to the environment or the diagnosis or what we're doing with our health? And so, guys, the nervous system controls everything. The nervous system is in charge of the balance of the body with cancer, how we're going to fight it, and with the stress dominance issues that we have in our culture. What are some other things that we can do outside of changing nutrition, exercising, detoxing from certain lifestyle habits? Well, there's specific supplements that you can be taking too that will help with this. One of the things is called curcumin. Curcumin is active ingredient in turmeric. It's a spice in the food, and so it helps eliminate cancer cells without harm to healthy cells. So my question is this: if the research is out there, because the research is out there that curcumin actually helps the immune system and helps deplete and kill cancer cells, why is Siteman Cancer Center not providing this to every single patient that comes in their doors? Because they say it's not FDA approved. They say it could harm somebody. That curcumin is not going to harm anybody in comparison to what the chemo may be harming somebody. It won't. It's a nutrient. It's a mineral, right? So curcumin, you got to have that on your side. Another thing is called DIM. DIM is an ingredient that is found in cruciferous vegetables. It helps regulate hormones for breast and prostate cancer risk, and it helps with the reduction of this, right? So cruciferous vegetables are going to be loaded with DIM, and so you got to make sure you look into that. It is more efficient to supplement with this, of course, but eating cruciferous vegetables is going to help you. Cruciferous vegetables are like Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, things like that. So you're going to want to make sure you're doing that often and frequent. Okay. Another nutrients here that you got to start taking is garlic. Garlic is is something that's been shown to be antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. It's huge when it comes down to reducing the risk of certain types of cancer specifically. And so making sure you're consuming garlic as a supplement is, once again, one of the most efficient ways to do it. I want you to get this in all of your food, but it's also nice just to have that supplement to where you can just pop it, and it's way easier than smelling like garlic all day, right? And then lastly is probiotics. Having a good probiotic helps with that gut wall, helps with the microbiome balance, and helps with your body's ability to handle the stresses that you're under. And let's just take colon cancer, for instance. If you can take supplements and or eat food or drink certain products that are going to directly impact your gut wall, your gut lining, the chances of you ever getting polyps or colon cancer is going to go down significantly, right? So taking probiotics is going to be huge, especially when it comes down to colon cancer and anything that's involved in that lower abdominal region. So colon, prostate, bladder, uterus, ovaries, they're close together, so they can impact each other. Okay. And then we have the DIM in the office. The DIM is as a supplement with the garlic and parsley oil blend in the office, probiotic, and then the curcumin C3 in the office. And so if you have more questions about that, please let us know. We're here for you guys. I know we covered a lot quickly in this. I think in closing, what I want you to remember is that you're not a victim to your genes. You're not a victim to your environment. That cancer, although it can be complicated, it breaks it down to the fact that cancer doesn't make you sick. It's the sick body that creates the cancer, allows the cancer to be created. that use the plants analogy when you're thinking about how to explain this to somebody, or you just how to even wrap your head around what's currently happening in your culture. Know that no matter how much money is donated to the research facilities and the drug departments for cancer medications, is that the rates are going up. And some people would argue that, well, because testing is increasing. Well, my argument is this: well, testing is increasing at younger ages, but why is pediatric cancer skyrocketing? And unfortunately, pediatric cancer deaths are skyrocketing too. So that's my concern, is that all the numbers are going up. And I think we got to recognize this is a crisis, and this is affecting a lot of people that are maybe closest to us. And my heart goes out to them. My heart goes out to you if you've been impacted by this. There's just no we're in this together, and it's okay to have a visceral response when you hear the word cancer, but know now that there's some Socratic ways to walk through that mentally, emotionally, to be like, okay, now wait, hold on. You said you have cancer, but what stage is it? Or what did they say is the prognosis? Or what's your game plan to change so you don't cause that? So there's always a game plan, right? Cut out sugar, drink more water, increase healthy fats, remove damaged fats, get your spine adjusted, go for a walk every day so you can breathe in more oxygen, get better sleep. The 5 essentials, guys. The 5 essentials. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight. Love all the comments that are popping up on the screen. It's awesome. We are here for you. Next Tuesday is the next time we're coming back at you, is going to be how to strengthen the best natural defense you have in your body, which is your central nervous system. So it's going to be all about the central nervous system. Really some research behind this. Talk about some pediatrics, how this is so important for you and how it's being overlooked so much in our culture. But guys, I love you. Hope you have a great evening, and tune in next time. See you guys.